Welcome to our Doggy Bomber padded jacket sew-along. If you are watching this through patreon.com and you are a member, you will receive the pattern for free along with the sew-along. If you're not a member yet, you can join up. www.patreon.com/BoulaHeart, where there are loads of sew-alongs and free sewing patterns just waiting for you. Okay, so let's get started. It's a really basic pattern. It consists of one piece, which is the main body, and you'll be using this to cut out the fabric, the lining and the batting. And you'll just be cutting it on the fold. The amount of fabric you'll need is about 1/2 meter, 1/2 yard. So it'll be 1/2 meter, 1/2 yard fabric, 1/2 meter, 1/2 yard lining, 1/2 meter, 1/2 yard batting. But if you like me, you have a giant roll of batting ready and waiting just for this sort of occasion. The stitching lines, I do recommend that you put on the main fabric if it's possible. But if you like me and you've used a dark fabric, you can then transfer the lines onto the lining section. But make sure you're transferring it onto the right side of the fabric, because you'll need to be able to see it once everything is sewn together. So take your main fabric and use this to cut out your batting. It does make life a little bit easier. So just put the main fabric on straight like this, pin it, and always make sure your pins are facing the direction so that when you're sewing with your sewing machine, it's easy to take the pins out. So just put it straight onto the batting, cut it out, and once it's cut out, then you can just go straight to the sewing machine and do a loose base stitch around the edges to join the two together. I've cut these out of a standard printed polycotton fabric. I find that just a plain polycotton is quite perfect for this pattern. The other items you'll be needing to finish it off are 2 lengths of elastic. The elastic should be about 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch wide and about 4 inches or 10 centimeters long. And then 2 large buttons for the final touch. So take your elastic now, cross over the bottoms, and this added to one side of the top. I'm doing this now because when I baste on the batting, I'll be basting on the elastic as well. Make sure the loop is facing inwards towards the fabric. So do it on one side on the top and one side on one of the side little lengths. If you hear any funny noises, my apologies. I've recently adopted a blind puppy, and sometimes he needs me. Good, and there you have it. So now you're ready to do your basting. Just do a loose base stitch all the way around the edges to join the two together. Great, so there you have it. Once you've done that, your elastic and your batting is now attached to your main fabric section. Sorry about the crunching noise in the background. My adopted puppy loves carrots and he's teething. It's a recommended chew toy by my vet because he's a sight hound. He can get very possessive over normal toys. So the best chew toys is carrot and apples. So now you're going to take your main fabric and your lining and right sides facing, so make sure all the stitching lines are facing down so you can't see them. Right sides facing, you're going to pin these two together. Great. Once you pin those together, you're now going to stitch in all the layers together using a standard seam allowance. So on one side, starting at the bottom, you're going to stitch all the way around, stitch right around to the other side, but you're going to leave a gap open here. So you're just going to leave this gap open here and just stitch from the bottom around and then stitch to the top. This opening here that you're going to be leaving unstitched is where you're going to be pulling everything through right side out. So stitch that and you'll be ready for the next step. And there you have it. You've sewn all the way around, making sure that you leave that gap on the one side where you can turn everything right side out. So take your small scissors and you're going to be cutting and trimming away all the excess fabric at the corners. This is just to make sure you can push your corners through nicely without any issues whatsoever. Right, then once you've done that, along all these curved edges, so the curved edges is your neckline, and then this is the shoulder line. So these curved edges, you're going to take your scissors and every 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch, just clip along there. This will help the curved edges sit better again once you've turned it the right side out. Great, then once you've done with all your clipping and trimming, turn it right side out. Just put it all through this hole. And the gloves have come off. Great, once you've done that, push out all the corners very nicely. Now, turn to the side where you can see all the stitching lines. And just make sure the fabric is sitting flush there. Along the edges. Just to make sure it's not going to be moving anywhere. Just put the occasional pin through to help keep everything nice and lined up. Okay, so now you're going to be stitching along these stitching lines while you're doing that. You can make sure that these seams are sitting nice and flush. And if you want to, before you start stitching the stitching lines, just press along the seam. Make sure that it sits as neatly as possible. And there you have it. Once you've completed your quilted effect, you're now going to be stitching around the edges of your little jacket. So first you're going to start by tucking in this open edge. You're going to be tucking it in, making sure you're tucking by the standard seam allowance of 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch. So tuck it in and pin it together. There you have it. You're going to be just stitching along the edge, closing that hole, and stitch all the way around, about 5 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch all the way around. There you have it, and all you have left to do to finish off your doggy bomber pattern jacket is to sew on your 2 giant buttons onto the opposite ends with the elastic. A little bit of needle and thread. And just like that, very quickly and easily, your jacket is finished. And here's Luna, the Jack Russell, a perfect little model, wearing her brand new jacket. Hey Loons! Hey gorgeous girl! As you can see, this jacket is for small sized breeds. You're so cute. Such a cutie.